Good morning and welcome to Sahara TV's breakfast show. And this morning we'll be analyzing the newspaper headlines as well as looking at what's trending in the dailies today. And with us to help shed light and give concise analysis on the trending news is Akin Olawonyi. That's the executive committee member, Campaign for Workers and Youth Alternative. Akikumi, it's a pleasure having you on Sahara TV.
It's my pleasure too. Good morning.
Let me get your thoughts on this. What are your thoughts on the balance between political considerations and merit-based appointments as far as this cabinet is concerned?
Okay. Every politics in every climb has its own, dynamics. It is individuals who participate. That's why we also call the people, the mass of the people, that these guys, there is nothing that they have that we do not have. The youth must participate in politics. It is not about protest alone. It is about capture of political power. So every politics has its own dynamics. We know for sure that politicians who provide the structure, what they call structure, we know what it is in Nigeria, who provide the structure, who provide everything, will still be the one to take the chunk of it. That's why we say that the character of the party that produces you, the character of the system that party, economic system that party defends, will also reflect in the kind of individuals that are going to be on board in your cabinet. It is done everywhere. So, that one is a politician does not also make one to be incompetent anyway. So it is not a question of, mutual exclusivity. It's not mutually exclusive, being a politician and being competent. Because if that be the case, some of us who are also saying that it is not about activism alone, it's not about protest alone, it is about capture of political power. We see ourselves too, as a government in waiting. The youth of this nation, the individuals who are looking for better society, they must participate in politics. And when they do, it does not necessarily now mean that when the time comes, when power comes onto them too, they will also not, be, appointed. But just as I said, it is also, you cannot divorce the appointments from the process that produced the president. APC by its nature, PDP by their nature, they are parties that are set up, to defend principally the market forces. They are principally set up to say that government has no business in business. They are principally set up as a pro-market, pro-capitalist parties. So, irrespective of who you bring on board, let him have Harvard certificate, let him go to MIT and every other thing, he cannot be higher. The individual that you put there cannot be higher than the system that he defends. So these are some of the limitations, because beyond the individual, all this emphasis on the individual, somebody has all these certificates. You can have all these certificates, but this is the direction our government want to go. So the direction is, we will need more revenues, we need to tax people the more, we need to get more money onto the covers of the government, irrespective of the pains that it causes. Irrespective of anything, you are just an appointee. They put you there. You must execute these policies.
So what you are saying in essence is, the specific policy directions or priorities set by President Tinubu through his choice of ministers, how effective do you find these directions?
Okay, the direction.
Exactly.
We've already seen the direction from day one. In fact, it was from the Eagle Square that the announcement was first made. We can no longer afford to subsidize. That's the first thing that was thrown. We are going to unify the exchange rates. That's the word that they used. But that word is nothing but an euphemism for devaluation of the currency, of the naira. A lot of their, we call them bourgeois economists, have come to that conclusion that the Nigerian naira is overvalued before now. And to them, it is this overvaluation of the naira that has been preventing investors, foreign investors, from investing in the economy. All of them heaped all the blames on Buhari, who they believe is more of a statist, states intervention in, foreign exchange and every other thing. That the way they liberalize almost everything, the foreign exchange regime should also be liberalized. Naira should be floated. Let it also find its feet in the struggle, the life and death struggle of demand and supply, which they call in economics invincible hand. The market forces, let it determine the prices, the price of naira, the real value of naira. So, but what we have said, because what they told us then was that if they float the naira, that the the parallel market, which is actually the market that majority of other individuals, apart from the big boys player like Dangote and others, have access to, will also come down to come and meet in the middle. So if there is a 300 naira difference between the official price of naira exchange rate and the parallel exchange rates, by the time that you float it, it will come, the parallel will come and meet this, and the official will go up. So they meet in the middle. Some of them were so clinical, quote and unquote, in their analysis that it will be around 500 or 600 naira at the minimum.
But that has not been reflected
today, once they floated it, what have we seen? It has moved from 700 and something at the parallel market to about 900 naira now. So, we asked this, our economists, what has happened? And they always have, excuses, or what they call explanation. It is the supply side. The supply hasn't come. So what have we benefited so far in this free-flowing, naira regime? So these are some of the direction. And once you devalue in an import-dependent economy, so import-dependent that almost everything is being imported. So you have a situation whereby it leads to inflation, which is what has happened now between May 29 and now. By the time NBC does its calculation, we want to see how many more Nigerians have been pushed below the poverty line. So these are some of the direction of the market. It is not just the Tinubu APC that has this orientation. PDP Atiku had that orientation, including even Peter Obi of Labour Party, despite the fact that he ran on a Labour Party, platform. They had this, idea about the question of removal of subsidy. That subsidy regime can no longer work. So the criticism of PDP and maybe Peter Obi towards him is the approach that he has used. And the fact that, maybe things will have been in place before you do all of this. So these are the situations that we have found ourselves. So it is the direction which a regime wants to follow that determines what a minister is going to do. And this direction so far, without mincing words, in the last 3 months of, Tinubu APC administration, has been very, very anti-people. People are, more and more people are suffering. It is bringing back those memories of the Abacha years, where hunger walked freely on the street, where, increase in crime, and it is happening now. Petty crime, people have been along Isheri Road, Isheri Beggar side for the past 1 or 1.5 months now. That place has become, very dangerous at night. We have reports from different, parts of the country too, where there is a gradual upsurge in crime because there is a nexus between hunger and crime. People will not just self-liquidate. They won't give up and kill themselves. They will try every means to survive, even at the expense of the system, even using criminal means to stay alive. So these are some of the social consequences of some of these economic policies.
Now, you can still be part of the program, and we'll like to hear your comments and your thoughts on the issues that we have been analyzing. The number to call is right there on the screen. It's at 0704 9941 413. And if you're calling from outside Nigeria, please add the country code +234 704 9941 413. We still have Comrade Akikumi Olawoyin, the Executive Committee member, Campaign for Workers and Youth Alternative, in the studio with us. Now, Akikumi, we're still looking at this ministerial appointments.
Okay.
And we'd like to get your view on the fact that Tinubu has become the Minister of Petroleum, so to speak. We only have a Minister of States for Petroleum. This has been the trend from past regimes, where like Buhari himself was the Minister of Petroleum. Do you expect to see any changes in the direction of the petroleum itself, ministry itself, concerning the fact that the president has so much on his table, on his hands, and now bringing the core Ministry of Petroleum, which you have said is the lifeblood of Nigeria's economy, under it, and questions are being asked that he will not be accountable. Since he cannot be called on to account by the National Assembly, to come forward now to give account of whatever is happening in that ministry. Should Nigerians be concerned?
Okay. The same concern that we had during the Obasanjo regime, the same one we had during the Buhari regime, is the same concern we have today in the Tinubu regime. Petroleum resources, rather than being a blessing to Nigeria, has actually been a curse, so to say. From the question of even the percentage of these resources that are expatriated out of the country by the multinationals, to the question of even the accounting for the real amounts that is to be given, despite the fact that that percentage is low already, we are even still not getting the full value for it due to a whole lot of, issues ranging from corruption to security to a whole lot of other things. At a stage, that the security challenge in the Niger Delta, unlike in the past where people will have hostage taking and others, people have now devised other means. Very simple. Connivance with the security agencies and every other thing. The situation got so bad in 2022 that the same individual that they declared wanted at the beginning of Buhari regime was the one they had to go and call to come and help them secure the pipelines. And that is the situation of things. The real victims of all of this are the people of Niger Delta. You'll be so shocked that even the protests that we do here take petrol back to 45 and to 98 naira. The official rates, they don't buy it at the official rate in the Niger Delta, as in the people themselves. They buy it at a rate higher than what we buy it in Lagos here. So these are some of the issues that are already involved in the petroleum sector before now. The wealth of the society that should ordinarily have been nationalized so that the enormous wealth that is coming out of the petroleum industry will at least reach significant number of Nigerians, including the host community, in whose backyard rather, we are, drawing this oil. It's not being done. So, all the arguments, we thought with the signing of the Petroleum Industry Act that they said over that time that El Dorado will be seen in the petroleum sector, but few years down the lane, we've not seen any, corresponding, results, positive results along this line. So, like every other sector, we saw what other oil-producing society did with their agriculture, with the resources. We saw it before the destruction of Libya. We saw some of the things that you could use oil resources to do. We saw what Iran used their own to do. These are not, completely, okay society, but relatively, when you compare it with the kind of the ruling class that we had over here, who in the last 64 years of oil exploration in Nigeria has not been able to modernize the society. So those concerns that we had before now have not gone away. Even with a new person, in the saddle, which is President Bola Ahmed, Tinubu, as the Minister for Petroleum. So these are some of the things that, we still need, to look at. And each time we hear there is no money, there is this, there is that. All the other things, all the Nigerian billionaires, if you rate them from up, go and look at the percentage of their wealth that comes to the government as form of tax. Extremely meager. You will be so shocked that the workers are paying higher than a whole lot of billion, because for the workers it's pay as you earn. It is deducted from their salaries. When you compare the percentage to the percentage paid as income taxes by these, multi-billionaires in Nigeria, you'll be so shocked. You can name them. These are supposed to be public records, so you can go and ask. So these are some of the things that we have concerns about. Thank you.
Yeah, let's also, earlier on while analyzing these issues, you mentioned some of the ministers specifically, who had come with some level of baggages because of the antecedents that they have. Let's take the Minister of Defense, for example, Matawali. I mean, Nigerians have criticized the appointment of Matawali, considering the baggage of corruption cases he has, and the fact that the EFCC chairman is still being detained by the DSS. And despite public outcries, has still not, the proper thing have not been done, proper processes have not been served with regards to his detention. And now we have a Matawali being Minister of Defense. I mean, how do we juxtapose that?
Nigeria's situation is a bit. I'm looking for the right adjective to use. I don't want to use the word dramatic, because it is full of a whole lot of plots, suspense, and and intrigues. The youths who are desirous of change, the workers who believe that Nigeria can be better run, the honest Nigerian, working people who want a better society, they are not fools. They already know that the regime is starting on a very wrong footing. Because just as the case of Matawali that you mentioned, how do you reconcile it that an individual that has been alleged, yes, it remains an allegation until proven in the court of law by an anti-corruption agency of siphoning the resources of his state. He came back through a salvo that you two is because I don't want to come to the public. You are also as guilty as I. He didn't say I'm not guilty. But the fact is that Bawa, who was about prosecuting him, also demanded money from him. We saw all the interplay within the few days of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's ascendancy. We saw the intrigues where, interagency fights, DSS raided EFCC's office, files were taken away, and every other thing. You are. What kind of signal are you sending to the society?
Exactly.
That, this is the same of same that we have always known. It's not that the masses don't know that it is same of same, but you are even rubbing it in their face. So you have a situation whereby, individual that has been indicted on question of the security in Zamfara State,
Exactly.
in question of, cutting away government vehicles, where the new regime had to forcefully go and, take all this. You have not even given him the opportunity to come and defend himself. We are not hearing anything about those allegations again. The EFCC, granted, Bawa is no longer there, but it's an institution. So who takes over from Bawa? What is the state of that investigation of the Minister for Defense? So we have a situation like that, and the masses are looking. They are watching. They know that there is nothing you want to tell them about corruption that they are going to listen, because they know very well that the president seems not to be leading by example. So that is the kind of things that we are facing.
I'd like you to also shed light on the fact that Matawale, under his watch as governor, bandits controlled a large part of the state, despite the state's chief, he being the state chief security officer, and he constantly received security votes as a first-line deduction from federal allocations. And we know, Nigerians know that as governor, he had no control over the police or military. His general attitude to insecurity in the state was nothing to write home about. And there are strong allegations that he even shielded some notorious bandits from being arrested or neutralized by security agencies under the guise of giving them a so-called amnesty. Nigerians are asking the president, how can a man who failed to secure his people in Zamfara be one of those in charge of the country's defenses? Your reaction?
The reaction is the same that I've given before now. Ordinarily, defense is very critical.
Also, what does this portend in terms of policy directions of security of the country itself, considering the state of insecurity?
This is I want to use the street language that they say that last everybody go chop breakfast. This is not the best of time for the supporters of APC, especially the young ones, because they are being dragged everywhere. Because one of the things that they mentioned as one of the best qualities of their principal, that's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, his ability to spot talent, to put round pegs in round holes. That's what we hear. They never mentioned that he himself is but that he has people and he has a way of engaging, the best hands. But, with what we have seen now, with the coming on board of people of, questionable characters, being given portfolio, that are so powerful that they can also tamper with their own investigation if care is not taken. So, some of us are not surprised. We are not surprised at all. The question of Zamfara State, Zamfara became, an ungoverned, a significant chunk of Zamfara State remained ungoverned in the last 5 to 6 years with the activities of these bandits. Ministry of Defense is both for internal defense and also the external defense. Without necessarily defending Matawale, you have mentioned it. A governor does not control the police, it doesn't control the army, it doesn't control, but there are also things that are in the hands of the governor in question of policy direction, in question of his, attitude towards security too, and every other thing, even if he doesn't control all of that. Given what has happened in Zamfara State, one, it's an embarrassment to the Nigerian state as a whole. Because when you are talking about poverty, a farmer who is not able to go to his farm, who is not able to feed his family just because bandits are going to, are kidnapping for ransom and every other thing, it adds to the number of individuals that goes below the poverty line. Because when you can no longer feed, and majority of those places in the northwest, are also part of, they are agrarian. Majority of the communities, it is the economy of the local community revolves around farming. So these are some of the things that, is supposed to be of real concern to any genuine leadership. But you then have a Matawale now put in charge of security and defense throughout the country. There is nothing beyond, I've told you, it is not about his technical competence in security that is the main concern here. It is also the fact that an individual with that kind of baggage, I can just imagine you telling officers, because they are the one in charge of the army, the police, the everything, and you know that the guy that is giving you order to do this and that is filled with baggage, is filled with a whole lot of other things that cannot be defended. I don't know how, they are going to be feeling. So that's just the thing. Now, the appointment whether in defense or in any other thing is completely insulting. So let's leave it at that.
Our time is almost up, and let me ask this final question from a broader perspective. How well does President Tinubu's cabinet reflect the promises and goals outlined in his campaign?
Part of the campaigns and the goals is that they are going to also lift a whole lot of people from poverty. They are going to, attract foreign direct investments into the economy. They are going to reflate the economy to set it on a strong footing. They are going to do a whole lot of things. But just as I said, 3 months is not a small time in politics and also in economics. The direction so far has shown that the Nigerian people need to get themselves ready to defend their livelihood if they are going to survive the 4 years. If eventually, the regime is still battling legitimacy, as the election petition tribunal has not given its verdict, even if it favors the regime, they still have the opportunity of going to the Supreme Court. So, in the event that he eventually become victorious and is to serve for 4 years till 2027, the Nigerian people will have no other option than to rise up to defend their livelihood. If we are going to survive that 4 years, the youths will need to be on the alert. The organized labor, which is the most advanced of all the oppressed section of the society, will need to completely be on the neck of the regime, mobilizing the Nigerian workers and the Nigerian people. The attacks that are being carried out at the education sector, where school fees are being increased on daily basis from one university to the other, where the unity schools have been told now to also bring more money. Fees are being increased in unity schools too. So the question of the health sector that is moribund, where most of our hospitals receive far less in allocation than what is allocated to the Aso Rock Clinic under the Buhari regime. Things might go worse now. So before we can say that we are going to be able to survive these 4 years based on the direction that the regime is going, it means that there must be fight back. There must be fight back from the people. The minimum wage that has now been completely eroded by one of the policies of the regime, which is devaluation of the naira. Forget the question of unifying. Unifying is an euphemism, just as I said, for the word devaluation of the naira, because that's the real impact. So the minimum wage of 30,000 naira, which was already a poverty wage, has even become worse today based on the value of the naira today. So these are some of the things that, the masses will have to stand up for their rights. The workers have to also know that it is not just about calling for protest, calling for increase in salaries and other things. It is the fact that they must also unite. They must also have interest in politics. There must be an alternative socio-economic system to counter the pro-market capitalist system that they are pushing. The wealth of the society should be democratically run and owned by all of us. Profit first system must give way to an alternative system. So some of us have no apologies for saying it, that the neo-colonial capitalism that has been practiced for the past 64 years in Nigeria has led to hunger, has pushed 80-something million people in poverty. It has led to destruction of the environment, the Niger Delta environment, despite billions of dollars that have been extracted from that, from the Niger Delta. So to this system, we counterpose a socio-economic system called socialism as the way forward to Nigeria. A system in which the enormous wealth of the society will be democratically owned and run by the people. That's my part in short. Thank you.
Thank you, Kumalawi, the Executive Committee member, Campaign for Workers and Youth Alternative. Thank you for insightful perspective. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thanks so much.
That's so much we'll be taking from our program today, and we'll hope to see you next week on the same time to discuss issues affecting Nigeria. It's a pleasure to have you all join us. We hope to see you again.